Snow geese. Called the Canadian goose. And the yellow legs.
As long as we're living off the land, we are healthy.
Hang on! Oh, this is where we get our food from. This is where we fill our freezers. We don't just help ourselves, we help families as well to, they got to have their nourishment of the caribou, the belugas, the berries. So it opens a lot of doors for programs to hold down here, to get people back out on the land. And we thank you all for coming out for this beautiful land that we have now. It's all protected. And for our people, that way we can harvest off the land. That way there's no anything happening.
Anguniarvik, Aullaviat. Aullaviat is where people travel, or the animals, anything, fish travel, Aullaviat. Anguniarvik is where they hunt. Yeah. Aullaviat, Anguniarvik. Since I was a little girl, I could remember we used to always come down here with a scow, and it used to take us out how many hours, maybe 2 or 3 days sometimes to come down, depending on the weather. And we'll stay on the side of the mountain over here. Then the men would go up there to hunt caribou, and us young ones, we used to go up there too and haul them back. And then on our way back again, we stop over here, and this is where my grandmother used to pick berries. They had to prepare themselves for the winter, thinking of the winter ahead of them. So a lot of our people lived in this area, stopping places where they would get whatever their needs.
We're on the North Slope. Just entering the North Slope here off the Delta, and we're on Burt Camp River, which hits the Shallow Bay area there. Then they cut across to Chinook Point. And right now everybody's just at the cabin here that they built for the program, and everyone's visiting. It's a good spot, nice and dry, and you got a good view of the landscape. And this is where everybody comes down and harvests their geese and their caribou. And they do some fishing and also go out just out into the Shallow Bay area here. That's where they harvest the beluga whales And that's why they say it's so important. Everything right there in their kitchen is ready to go out there and grab it off the cupboards and ready to go.
Well, we were walking around and then right here, geese and they're yellow legs. They're yellow legs.
Call the snow geese, all of you. Call the Canadian goose. And the yellow legs. Excellent. Paula. And when will these eggs be ready? Or when will they?
Next weekend.
Wow. And how do you tell what kind of eggs are those?
Because the feathers. Mom did.
It's the feathers of a what?
A yellow leg.
Of the yellow leg. Interesting, eh? Thank you, guys.
It'll be good if we could get other communities to just even come down and visit, see what's going on, and maybe they'll try how to look after their land and talk to their younger people and make them understand that as long as we're living off the land, we are healthy. We can't live off food that we're not used to all our life. We don't know what they put in the food, and that's what's making a lot of people sick. Maybe that's where cancer come from. That's where some people, we never hear people being diabetic long ago. All that is happening. That's because they eat different kind of food as we have food right off the land. You know, maybe a lot of people wanted to see it happen, but they never lived to see it. And I'm very happy and proud to be one of the people that could see how much work has been done to get all this to happen. And I'm very thankful for all the people that are still alive that work so hard, from our community, Billy Store and all these other boys. They did a lot of work. And Lindsay, he started right from the beginning. And I'm glad he's able to come down here and see this very rich, healthy land we have yet. I always be thankful because there's no oil companies, no disturbing of the land that much. We keep the land real good, the land keep us.
You're photobombing it.
It feels amazing. It's so exciting to see all of the people who have worked so hard on this be out on the land today, with the guardians and with the young people too, and also with the elders. It feels really amazing to be a part of a generational story continuing, and part of this kind of special land that we can finally celebrate after talking about it for probably 15 years.
This land is so rich, and we're so proud of everyone working and everyone that, I said it before, but this is a very, very special moment of opening up Aullaviat Anguniarvik. So on behalf of the community of Aklavik, here it is. It's going to be the ribbon cutting with our three elders.
Before we start, I'd like to thank everybody. As an elder, I remember living here, a little grown up growing up here. And I'd like to thank Lindsay because he's in the 71. He was there day one till today. So I'm very thankful for all of you for helping us where we are today. Thank you. Try it again. Try again.
Tighten up that ribbon.
Yeah.
Tighten it.
Oh, I feel very good and proud to be part of this ceremony, and like everybody said, it's very good for our community, and it's going to open up many doors and opportunities, and just protecting our land and our area of where we harvest and get all our traditional food, and it's going to be there for the future and many generations to come. And we just want to thank everybody that was a part of it and everybody that helped get us to where we are today. And it's just really good for our community and for the whole IRC, I think, just to have a protected area in our region. So
today we're having a long-awaited signing of an agreement with Canada and government of the Yukon and Inuvialuit of Aklavik. It'll help the beneficiaries be able to afford, and some of our elders that are not able, or our membership don't have any equipment or stuff to go out on the land. We have equipment and we have buildings and stuff set up, so we'd be able to go out and do a cultural program for them, and they'd be able to participate, and all means for getting out there and living out there and learning how to even harvest is a possibility, because we have land guardians that are hired, and we're doing cultural programs out on the land. They have a lot of experience out on the land in the Yukon North Slope and the area, so I think they have all traditionally participated in harvesting, all types of stuff. Being able to maintain our culture and our use of the land in the Yukon North Slope, and it's all about being able to harvest and being able to carry on programming to show our younger generation on, teach them on the culture and use of the land. And I just like to let the rest of the people around Canada and around the world know that, there are ways that you can set up things to be able to still practice your culture and maintain your mainstay and livelihood, because you're still able to harvest and be able to manage your own usage of what you have. So that's something that we try and teach all of our children and grandchildren. So that's what we try and maintain. So we do our best that we can. So we're always looking for ways to improve things for our community.
So the great thing about this area is it's this little narrow wedge of land that's stuck between the boreal forest and the Arctic Ocean. So about 60, 120 kilometers of land, when you go from the forest up to the ocean. And you get everything from grizzly bears to muskox to, bowhead whales and seals and polar bears, and then of course porcupine caribou. So, those are the big animals, and then you have all the bird life that comes up here to breed every year that we see in southern Canada as well. So it's an incredibly diverse area, unlike almost anything else in the north. So I just really want to give a few words today about this area and talk a little bit about why it's so special. And I think we've heard a lot of the words here today, but most people here know this already, but you're dealing with this landscape that's really narrow. So Aullaviat Anguniarvik, as well as Ivvavik National Park, they make up the North Slope. It's really like 80 to 160 kilometers or something like that wide from the ocean down to the boreal forest in Vuntut country. And that's a really narrow strip, but yet packed in that, there's a whole host of species. So you've got these Arctic species like muskox, you got Arctic char, Dàadzàii Vàn that come up into our rivers, like beautiful ones like this. You got polar bears that are just on the ice, just off the edge of it. You've got grizzly bears. You've got lots of wolves. And then you got bowhead whales. What else you got there? You got eider ducks, which are super awesome. And then you've got porcupine caribou. And that's amazing. I'll tell you, I've worked all over the world. I've worked a lot in Western Canada. There is not a lot of places like this, that in this little tiny bit of landscape, you've got this incredible richness. And this is just a small sampling of what actually is out there that you all know, that you see, that you harvest, that you participate in. It's phenomenal. And the porcupine caribou in particular, this is a picture of them actually out on the Firth River crossing at sheep slot, and the whole herd, all 100 and some thousand of the cows moving across the river. And they've been here for a long time. you all know this for your knowledge from your community as well as from your neighboring communities. Porcupine caribou have been here forever. On the sciencey side, we can go find antlers that are up on the North Slope, and these antlers that are still up there are thousands of years old that are out there, believe it or not. So we're actually able to date that. And then what's really unique about this landscape is you bring it together, and like this photo, this is a photo one of my students took. It blows my mind every time I see it, because you've got Lee John Mayok was out with this trip too last year, and tens of thousands of caribou passing by, and there's bull moose mixed in with them. I mean, that's just, you don't see that anywhere else. That's amazing. And then with all that, there's the bears, there's the wolves, there's the Jaegers flying overhead, all the things that happen. It's an amazingly rich landscape. So entrusted with this, we've heard a lot about the different organizations today, the Hunters Trappers committees. You have the Wildlife Management Advisory Council North Slope that's in this photo, and then the Aullaviat Anguniarvik working group that are all tasked with making sure that this area is managed properly, and that the wildlife, fish and wildlife that you depend on, that you rely on, and that your children rely on are still out there and they're doing healthy. So that's something that they're heavily involved in. So one of the things they do is they're tasking people like me to go out and do work and collect information that we can then use to build the argument for conservation. So this is actually a video that will play off. This is from one of our camera callers. So for example, for decades, we've been mapping on the sciencey side, where do porcupine caribou calve? And again, this isn't a shocking thing. All of you know this, but they calve up on the coastal plain. But we're able to bring all that information together and really start to understand where are the really important areas for calving. Again, that's why you created Ivvavik National Park, to protect part of the calving grounds. That's why over in Alaska they created part of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, was to protect the calving grounds. So we can then map that out, and we can build these information bits that we need. So the dark blue being areas that the herds calved in, the lighter blue being areas that calve in a little bit less. So when you created Ivvavik National Park, you protected most of the calving grounds in Canada for the herd, but there was some areas that were left out of that. And with the completion of Aullaviat Anguniarvik, you're fully protecting the calving grounds when you combine that with Vuntut National Park. So the Canadian part is now done. We know we have some work to do over in Alaska though still. The other thing, like Joe talked about, is the herd comes back after post-calving, and a lot of people haven't seen this. I've been lucky that I've been able to see it almost every year since I've been doing my work. But hundreds of thousands of caribou come back together. I know some people, like Rini, I think you collected a video out at Sheep Creek or Anguniarvik there a bunch of years ago, tens of thousands of caribou pouring through, and they do this every year. They leave the calving grounds or post-calving grounds in Alaska, and they come all the way back. And, if someone asked me, where's the one place that you could expect to find caribou any time of year or at any year, I would say go to Aullaviat Anguniarvik at the end of July, beginning of August. Because when we look at it, this is another map, that really dark kind of browny color, orangey color, they always go there. It's a really important area. It's really critical for the herd. And that became one of the bases, like Joe and Lindsay and others talked about, of why we needed to make sure that this area was conserved. The other thing that we did was working with the community here, and this goes back to, I think it was about 2018, and there was quite a few folks in this room, I think, that were involved in it. There was probably about 30 people. We had a workshop to better understand people's knowledge around habitat and wildlife, and then there was lots of interviews that Kim Heidemeyer and Will did afterwards, and that became a way of capturing a lot of the knowledge that the community already has. So, for example, this is a goose map that was built using both scientific knowledge, but also the green areas. This was based on habitat mapping that we did, where people said, hey, there's lots of geese, and we always find geese in these types of areas. We can map that then and continue to build the case for this area being really important for goose staging. The other part that was Peter Armitage and Judy Salamio. You might remember they were out doing interviews and trying to get an understanding of where people were out on the landscape. So this is some of the traditional land use mapping that was done. And this is amazing work. There's not a lot of it like it, but it's becoming more prominent because people recognize how great this stuff is. You'll see these maps outside the HTC office in the Hamlet. There's a bunch of them up. this is when you put it all together. When we take all that information, all that knowledge from science and from Indigenous knowledge, and we bring it all together into one place, then we can actually start to build the case of this is why you need to conserve this area. And you know, going back to what Lindsay was talking about with the final agreement, it's really supporting what you've always been saying. This is a really important critical area. And that is what's really, Jen showed you the Wildlife Conservation Management Plan. That's really what it is. The Wildlife Conservation Management Plan is just a collection of all this knowledge, but then it also gives us direction and strategy for what we do next. And one of those things that we do next is establish this conservation area. So that came out of that conservation plan. It was strong direction from the community. And the case for it came from all the scientific as well as Indigenous knowledge pieces that we've built over the decades. And all that work was directed from, supported, or came from this community. So I just really want to acknowledge that because it's really critical in building that case. So just to close it up and bring it back to why we're doing all this, we're doing it for the community, but we're also doing it for the caribous. We know that they need to come up to areas like this to eat food and eat the really good food that they find within the Aullaviat Anguniarvik area. So this is the munching down. I love watching it. They're just chewing off. The caribou are such specific eaters that they're eating the best part of the flowers where they get the most energy. The other thing, like Joe said, they come up here, they come up and they try to find areas that they can get away from bugs. So mosquitoes, but then also the warble flies that you see on them. They look like little bumblebees. They're not bumblebees, but they look like little bumblebees. And they bother the caribou. And this area has some really good areas with good wind and good food nearby that the caribou can get into and avoid that. So that's really important. And we all know that it's the balance between food and getting out of insects that actually determines whether the herd's increasing or decreasing. So just to bring it back to why do we do this? It's to make sure that the herd is protected and can keep being there, not just for your community, but like Joe said, for all the user communities of the porcupine caribou, but then also for this community in particular, so you continue to harvest and enjoy these caribou as well as all the other species going forward. So thank you very much for listening to me today, and congratulations.
The Government of Canada has an ambitious agenda when it comes to protecting nature across the country. From coast to coast to coast, we've been engaged in the largest conservation campaign in Canadian history, aiming towards the protection of 30% of lands and waters by 2030, halting and reversing nature loss in Canada by 2030, and achieving a full recovery for nature by 2050. And to help reach these goals, the Government of Canada has been working closely with provinces and territories. In fact, in 2022, the Yukon government was the first territory to sign a nature agreement with Canada, committing to those same conservation goals of 25% by 2025, 30% by 2030. But we've been very clear from the start, we can only do this by working in close partnership with, in close collaboration with Indigenous partnership. So no longer would this generation of leaders follow the steps of past governments and cut out Indigenous groups from establishing conservation areas. It starts with Indigenous leadership.
I'm Brendan Hanley, Member of Parliament for the Yukon.
Can you tell us about what's happening here today in Aklavik?
Yeah, well, today is a really big day, not only for Aklavik, but for but for our two territories, and in particular the Yukon North Slope, because this is the day that we're signing the agreement for preserving the Yukon North Slope, about 8,500 square kilometers of land with under an Indigenous agreement, and with all our partners here. So this is a really big day, and I'm very excited to have made the trip from the Yukon to Aklavik for the day.
This agreement recognizes and satisfies all three purposes of the IFA: economic benefits, cultural preservation, environmental protection. This agreement does all of that. One of the great benefits of this agreement goes beyond Aklavik. This agreement benefits the 7 native user communities of the Porcupine Caribou Herd because it enhances the protection of habitat for that herd. And so it's an agreement that has far-reaching implications beyond Aklavik. The agreement, as some have referred to, also has economic benefits associated with it. And these economic benefits are really, in fact, triggered by initially these 4 U.S. foundations or donors. And I want to just say something about the financial package associated with this agreement. You've heard already about the idea of building a trust fund that will permanently fund a stewardship and guardian program and management of Aklavik Inuvialuit on the North Slope. It's a $13.5 million program. And depending on how Aklavik wants to manage that, you can grow that 13.5 to make it 20 million or whatever. You know, you don't take all the interest each year, you take a little bit. But there's more to it than that. There's bridge funding that's been provided by Canada to help move the work along in advance. And that part is contribution agreements that flow money to Aklavik. And so Aklavik's already been receiving money through these contribution agreements. That money is worth $7.5 million. So what you're celebrating tonight is a $21 million agreement, with the principal financial beneficiary of this agreement being this community. And, you know, many of us, you live in this community. I've visited many small communities, and a $20 million contribution to a small community that creates 5 jobs and infrastructure on the landscape, boats, skidoos, trucks, cabins, is a really big deal. And that's part of the reason, a large part of the reason why we're going to party hard tonight.
The men follow Annie and the ladies follow Martina.
It's important to me and my organization as, like a harvester and a user of the land, the conservation area. It's a really, big celebration, big thing that a lot of people has been working towards for the last however many years. And it's a great opportunity to, showcase the importance of the area, the traditional knowledge it holds, and all the animals that we harvest on the land. I feel very, at peace, and I just want to very happy and content, and it just sort of heals me and makes me feel more rejuvenated and ready to do a lot of things. And I'm an very independent woman, so I go hunting, and just being out there alone, it just makes me really happy, and it's insane that this is my backyard.
Looks pretty deluxe.
that ice now, bro.
How often do you come out here?
Every year.
Yeah? What sorts of things do you do out here?
I hunt geese, caribou, and all that, swans.
Who taught you how to do all that stuff?
My dad and grandpa. Like 2 years ago, I was out hunting at West China. I got about like 4 or 3 caribou.
Yeah. What's the most fun out here?
Probably hunting.
Yeah. You ever go to Shingle Point?
Yeah, I go out there every year.
What sorts of things happen out at Shingle Point?
They hunt whales and we fish and fish net and fishing rods. And sometimes we go out looking for caribou with Hondas on the hills.
Is it hard to get caribou?
Sometimes when it's like windy and all that.
You learn how to cut and clean caribou too?
Yeah.
Is that hard work?
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to eat caribou? How you cook it?
Dry meat.
Oh yeah? How you make dry meat?
You skin it until skinny pieces, and you hang it up on a rack.
Starting in July, people start coming down, hauling stuff to Shingle Point, and they'll get everything ready for their fishing and whaling in the summertime. And like as you can see, all our birds they nest down here. They come. We hunt geese in the springtime all the time down here. Like there's families that come down. They spend a lot of time down here in the springtime. They hunt their waterfowl, their geese, their swans, their ducks. All that they fill their freezers with. And now it's springtime. We're down here. We're getting ready for our fishing and whaling season. And we'll go to Shingle Point, and there's a lot of camps there. There's probably 50, 60 houses down there that people have houses down there. There's down the hill, middle camp, and then there's a house in between middle camp and down the hill. There's the Aullaviat Anguniarvik two cabins down there that they built last summer. That's for programs that they're doing, same size as this house, but there's 2 of them down there. And they'll be doing programs down there. And it opens the door for a lot of things for our community, for our elders, for people that can't get out. They'll take them down there. They'll do programs with them. They'll do all kinds of stuff with them. It opens the doors to a lot of things for our people that can't get out. And now, like as you can see, come July, August, all these will be filled with aklavik, yellowberries, bake apples, you call them anything. There's a lot of names for it. Like all this will be filled, like as you see in some videos, like cranberries, bake apples, aklavik. Us we call them aklavik, yellowberries, and they're plentiful down here. They're bountiful. They grow all over down here. And then come August, September, the caribou with the porcupine herd will migrate through here, and they'll go towards the Dempster Highway, towards Aklavik, and then that's our main diet is the porcupine herd. And Joe's the chair of the Porcupine Management Board, and as you heard yesterday, they look after the herd, they manage the herd, and like if anything crashes, they let everybody know. And as Inuvialuit Game Council too, same thing. They let us know. We have, we sit on a lot of different co-management boards. A lot of us do here, and so this is our rich land. This is where we get our food. This is where we get our berries. This is where we get our birds from, and we fill our freezers because it's so expensive to live up here in the north. Like you go and buy a loaf of bread is $7-8 in the stores. Liter of milk, $7-8, $9. So like things like this is where we get our food from. This is where we fill our freezers, and we do that, and we don't just help ourselves. We help families as well. They got to have their nourishment of the caribou, the belugas, the berries, all that. And as you see in Ivvavik, we have the what do they call that? Inuvialuit, where they process the food and that. food processing plant, and they cut all the food, and they buy it from the people just to help them to give them a little incentive, and to give it to the people. That way they have their food, their with the nourishment of the caribou, the fish, berries, all that stuff what I mentioned. So today we're going to do a ribbon cutting here. We're going to ask Rini and Nellie to cut the ribbon in a few minutes here. And we thank everybody for taking their time out of the day to come down to celebrate down here as well. That's why they put this on, is to come down here, is to do the ribbon cutting in the houses that we built. Andrew Charlie is a builder of the cabins. Him and his crew, they built one here and two at Shingle Point. And so, and we have our workers too as well. Patrick Gordon, Danny Boy Gordon, and Jonas Miuk, and our manager, Tanya McLeod's the manager, and Sam McLeod is a coordinator for the workers. So they have boats, they have quads, they have skidoos, they have all this to go and patrol down here. Like it'll be all year patrolling for them. So it opens a lot of doors for programs to hold down here, to get people back out on the land. And once Tanya and I'm setting up with the ribbon, I don't know where you're going to cut the ribbon, Tanya? Just on the deck here. But maybe we'll get someone to hold the ribbons. We'll get two of our community members and our two elders to cut the ribbon, and then we'll officially open the houses. And so we thank you all for coming out for this beautiful land that we have now. It's all protected, and thanks to Lindsay, Billy, and everyone behind the scenes that worked hours, months, years of putting dedicating their time, negotiating, arguing, fighting, all this. They did that. They bend their back so we can have this land protected, and for our people, that way we can harvest off the land. That way there's no anything happening. So let's give a big round of applause for all you people and the people that work behind the scenes.
God kanul kuyanak diwit. Sobra kuyana o tikpun mikigalo ak God idiwit. Kau nagigip tigu tigilaw kapta nagaka angunia kapta nutakalo mako iso nigilaw kalu igilaw dibut. Malikati gutin dekelu tayo nga sobra God idiwit kau nagigip. Jesus at kaguna peri pinch. Amen. Amen.
Какая-то техника, чувство. Чина на кучок сей, это не да. Какая-то типушит. Дженсакуна чут айна хотата чинлин тукуини нам торшит нхок окуна хентат айна хотана. Ji kuchukul say kuchichu in a technatre and the statue kushit kukitaku that Ji would have Gentleman to sheet and what's a night. City non cut na sheet taxan sick get to Daudi native that I take into Henny didn't the grand dog could at so high in the heat target. Gentleman to look into Henny to that that no shit. Amen. Amen.
Lord. Nellie, you want to pray to let the mice run freely out here.
I'm thankful for being able to come down and see what we're trying to do now. And I hope in the future generation will think about that and try to look after the land good. You know, our ancestors lived on the land all their life, and they don't like when you don't look after the land good, because they said the land feeds you. It brings caribou, it brings moose, it brings all the animals that we're able to eat from the land, and berries and everything. We don't have to go to store and buy all those, not like how we have to buy store-bought food, and that's not healthy food for us. We're so used to the food off the land, that keep us healthy. And I'm very proud to be here today with everyone. And this is something that we could, it'll be good if we could get other communities to just even come down and visit, see what's going on, and maybe they'll try how to look after their land and talk to their younger people and make them understand that as long as we're living off the land, we are healthy. We can't live off food that we're not used to all our life. We don't know what they put in the food, and that's what's making a lot of people sick. Maybe that's where cancer come from. That's where some people, we never hear people being diabetic long ago. All that is happening. That's because they eat different kind of food, as we have food right off the land.
ilangan biki kamay mani inna
igilahu ragu lamona ku tigot umiak pang nigilo umiura nigilo igilahu ragu tamona ku tigot atao ragu atakapta kanunga anihakak tigot bird camp kunnaga kakao na kutachura kudlo anihurat umiak pach angunya kami takpo ni tutunigilo honig nakikiramigin pikaming hadiginigilo bilibili
wag nakiingilakan miki kama tapka munguragot niyako na may
kilaluwa ka niya kakot tapka mo na hinusut
tayo nyakot ang ilakana ahin ilan ni magkot magtay hutlo ka ay akarawin mo tibligit iningin yun ahin ay mga kutinan mani at siya ka niya kutin hindi ako
siya niya ako sa baktel kaya ni kami mipkul kaya ni kami tutkok tuyo kakotin buwak tuyo biliw kwak kanigilo pukuk tuyo ako
di ba tayo maningil ang account mo ilakat nirehulagot nun namin
okuro no nakita ma kwakat iliw akaliw kililablo
ulo po kahin adlangok to ka
buwakot bulik tugot buwak kanokam
magkotyo kilaluot
yan
akaw kaya tapos ahen niluni mipko niluni pisin niluni tayo na pihugat alakiriyak dugutan
iyak kilitan imihukan ni okorola sa liwi
ulo pa kahin alang mo pelak dugutan man nakiun na nunakput alang mo pelak tokta
pa yun ang magtikilyak pa yun
nunakputim ni alangak
imi pihukatakto ni tamaga imak huyuwa kilaksok pa yun nunakpuda
di ka ba kaya ang akapta ulo pa magkotak init kay mata Aullaviat Anguniarvik pimadam
Anguniarvik tikinyap tigo kanat kuya naktigibat inuviak tino takat igilaw kami kanat kuya naktigibat humunaw tila kakota
ako kapta
tingin nyo nila malito alrewod no takam tuti chawat biyo chawat kan kahit kuya niyakatit kanita kuya naktiyo haliga kukiyok paktuan
init kanhud madam init kahit o tadiga ilangit mga light shooting ilangan
mga tikit katalakot mga light shooting ilangan ilit kakawin mo na kuwilit kakawin
adlang uperlat kuda
ikala kawin ikakaliwin aday mga umiyak pa na atakot ataan mo ni gilagor
tala kemit hamulak katamaga inuit tagpabanin
nakapira sabi ka
ubula po kahit hukay hula ako na giligor ingilangan ubula po ko Akala ko, ngawangalik dito. Kaya ba kanubala ko na? Kaya ba kikitiwirak? Hariya ko yan ang kanayakati tamang tikirirat. Uwa kunni kaya huktung apyak kay kapni. Mga kapaduktu ko ba adi nga?
Look at those geese. And then show them at those geese. Look at right there, look at those geese. That black stick.
In Mamana, ya, 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 no nakyak, bisurok pang miyako, takulitan na yasikang laysarok tinikay, in mamana